Okay, I'm ready. Oh, I
Hello,
see. Okay.
and today we have Don Plier here, and he is a body electronics veteran, and he's agreed to share some of his stories about his experiences with body electronics. So, Don, would you start by telling us a little bit about your body electronics history, like how you got into it, how you began, and sort of your evolution through body electronics?
Okay. My name is Don Plier. I live in Wisconsin. I was born near Green Bay, which just about everybody has heard of, in 1942. I was, I believe I was kind of a seeker from the start because I think I was in grade school and I started looking for ESP books at the library with our friendly librarian. And I bounced around a lot of places looking into Eckankar and a lot of other yoga paths and other paths. And I, body electronics, was in an Eckankar meditation group, and a beekeeper friend of mine, I meditated with him, Floyd Gordon Jared, and he came in one day and set a set of tapes on my table and said, "You got to listen to these," and walked out the door. I thought, that's weird stuff. I don't know. I don't know if I got time for this. I'm busy. So a friend of mine, Yogi Jim, called me, we were talking one day, and he said, "I have two roomers who I could name, and they rent rooms for me. I need the money, and they just came back from Hawaii, and they were miracle healing this and miracle healing that." And I'm going, holy smoke! I got two meditating friends are telling me about this. I got to go through the tapes. So I was doing painting in my house at the time, and I painted and listened to tapes, and I listened to tapes. I thought, holy smoke, mother load. So I called Enzymes International, which was mentioned on the tapes, and they were just up Highway 51 from me. That's where John was at the time. And I said, I'm interested in this body electronics thing. And he said, there's a group that holds points in Madison. Well, that's 20 minutes away. So I call up the contact at Aloha Higher Health with Maggie Salter there, who later became Maggie Morrison, the mother of two of Doug's kids, and went down and held points there for a year. And it was kind of it was piling on, and Julie didn't want to come. She just briefly went down there once. So this is my wife, Julie, in the background here.
Hi, Julie.
She's the brains of this operation. So I held points there for a year, and then and I was pretty regular about it, and I had some amazing point holding experiences beyond words. And so I knew it worked. So I knew I had to get together with this John Ray guy. So I called up and said, I'd like to go to body electronics, but I've listened to all your tapes, listened to so many tapes, I think I know all this stuff. He said, the tapes barely scratch the surface. So I thought, okay, I got to see what this is. So I started out with Health and Human Mind in Hamilton, Ontario, and it was sponsored by Frances May, a person you said you know.
I never met Frances, but I had communication with her for some time. Yeah.
Okay, well, Frances led the group, and I held points on.
Don, Don, are you holding your
Yes.
device? Because your
I,
hand is
I,
in the device. Your hand is in the. There we go.
oh, I see. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
There.
Okay,
Is that
thank you.
okay?
Yeah.
You got it propped up?
Yes.
Okay, good. Great.
Okay, in order to get the angle and everything, I had to do that.
So
I am.
you went up to Hamilton to Frances May.
And spent a week there, yes. And I could tell you stories of miracle after miracle after miracle there. So John put me with a woman who had a level of a realization. Um, there was a funny interactions going on. She was sitting up front. And I wanted to be sitting in the seat she's sitting in. So to be sitting up there, at a break, I put all my material right on the couch, right in front. So I was next to John. So I was sitting next to Olga Tilk, and a lot of Olga Tilk stories, so real miracles right before our eyes. And then others that talked about miracles right before their eyes. one man, when it was his turn to tell a little story, said, I've seen the lame walk. I've seen the crippled healed. He said, this is a program of miracles. So, and I could go on
Can
for
you
days.
define miracle?
Okay. Very good question. Very good question. A miracle, it depends on where you're standing. Yogananda said miracles cluster thickly around the master. So miracles are those, and miracles are performed by siddhis, by persons with people with attainments. The miracles, the gifts of the Spirit, miracles are performed largely by people with gifts of the Spirit. Miracles can be answers to prayers. There is the Course in Miracles. It is said to have been, by some, to have been written by Jesus Christ himself. Miracles. I could put that in other contexts, but it would be confusing right now. What is a miracle? A miracle is something beyond the ordinary experience of a person. Now, the ordinary experience of people varies considerably. What is a miracle to a master? The walk in the park, usually.
Right. So that's great. It's you know, when I started teaching body electronics, I took the word miracle out of the process, and I did that for a very particular reason, because you know, people would say, oh, it's the most powerful, you know, it was put out into the world as like the most powerful healing modality on planet Earth, and you know, and miracles. And then I really contemplated that before I did remove those words, you know, from my teaching. And that is because what I saw people interpreting miracles as is something either that came from the outside in. So it was something that was blessed upon you. You know, that was kind of like a traditional, I would say a traditional Christian idea of miracles. And also it was something that was very unusual. So I wanted to take those two things away from the word miracle and make it like what we once would maybe consider a miracle would just be everyday practice as we return to our natural divine blueprint, and by removing resistance and have a change of consciousness. So that's the reason I you know, and it's from the inside out, not the outside in. So those are the two reasons that I removed the word miracle from my work in BE. Yeah, keep going. So where did you go from there with John? And
well, I did the Health and Human Mind then with John, and then Julie and I did iridology up in northern Wisconsin at what is called Schwartz Lodge up there. It's right near Enzymes International. All kinds of experiences there. So iridology, you're mostly sitting in a dark room all the time, and John is showing slides, and the bottom line is full program. You've done iridology. It's like everybody really needs all the nutritional items all the time. And the more you provide that foundation, you're building your spiritual house on a foundation of nutrition. We are in materiality and going through spirituality, but we have to be solidly grounded in materiality, which is what we put in the cake hole and comes out the bunghole. And if it's not coming, and if it's not doing either appropriately, we're in trouble. We're on a sinking ship. And Doug makes that clear in the introduction to How We Heal.
Right. So where did you go from there in your body electronics experience?
Well, the next week was, let's see, what are the three? Health and Human Mind, iridology, and body electronics was the next one. And there was a lot of healings. And
so, okay, just for the people, I'm going to interject here just for a moment. For the people watching that aren't aware of, you know, that sort of process that we go through, that's the process of an instructor's course basically is to, it was done very differently back then, but it's all body electronics. I just want to clarify that for people who don't know. So what Don is talking about is entirely body electronics. It's just factions of body electronics. And when he says he's going into a body electronics area, that means like point holding and the hands-on table work. Okay, continue.
Yes, okay. So at the time, we were dealing with 5 or 6 areas of body electronics. And this is instructors' courses, so this is not amateurs. You're in there, you are within, well, I look at it sometimes like the old country grade school. You've got 8 grades, and you might even have some little kiddies that tag along because mommy can't take care of them.
Right.
And you might have some there that are like older than a normal 8th grader because they had to work on the farm and they got off to do their school learning later. And I am in a township, and every township in Wisconsin had a little school, and they put it in the center of the township, and one of the sections was the school township, and the teacher often lived with the farmers. Well, so you're getting diversity here. Some of these people come into school and they can't speak English. Some people come into body electronics. Well, at Genazzano, where the real advanced classes were, it was like, holy smoke.
And that was in Australia?
In Australia, yeah. So I only did one of those. I believe there were 3, and blows my mind. This is the big stuff. And now you're going to see diversity. Like if you're a little country boy, like you've never seen it before. You're sitting having lunch with a Maori, and next to you is a guy from Turkey who's talking about Satya Sai Baba, and they all come with their path where they came from. And now it's weird. If those of you who watched any of those videos know Sama from the Dutch Cameroon, has he got stories to tell? And so each of these classes, as you're coming in, expect the unexpected, because the diversity coming in, and Elia is a picture of diversity in herself. She'll talk about the various paths that she grew on. The Drunvalo path is one, the Yogi path is another, the Anishinaabe, the indigenous Turtle Island people, is another. Other whole paths. Elia she's really fun because experiences that she is opening up to me, because now she's coming from all these paths. I mean, pantheism and it's just wow. And then she wants me to work, and I tend to drag my feet because I'm having fun with what I'm doing here. So body electronics. So name the 5 areas: health and human mind, iridology, and Ely is a master iridologist. Ilya is a master of all of these things as I name them. Know that. Health and human mind, iridology, body electronics, I believe advanced procedures, and cranial. Okay, we'll call it 5, and they were a week each.
I have no problem with any of them.
Julie had no problem with any of them. Julie and I are very different. She's probably at least a generation, maybe 2 generations more mature than I. Her path was largely by her. She was born on her mother's 47th birthday. She was the 3rd of 3 girls. I was the first of 3, and I was a smart and snot-nosed punk. And John got in my face more than once to cool my jets. And Doug says, "Bless the rod of chastisement." So you can see I can get on a tear. Okay, so I did those 5. I had some huge healing crises. I ended up in a hospital. I talked to John about it. Someone else from that same class, that was from the 3rd week of instructors, ended up in the hospital also.
Where was that? Where was that at that time? Where were you taking that course?
That was at Shorts Lodge. Well, that was in Enzymes International offices with Doug.
Okay.
That was my first cranial. I was seriously hallucinating. I didn't have my feet on the ground at all. It took me a while.
You feel that that was re-experiencing and releasing of like, things that were already in you that needed to
sure,
come
sure.
out?
Oh, for sure. A lot of it, I was into substance abuse for a while. A lot of it was
So
like,
you
I
were
could tell you,
re-experiencing and releasing it, and like during the healing crises, it was coming out after the cranial. Is that correct?
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yes,
Okay, great.
yeah. And
That's a
how,
really great point to make for people.
say again?
That's a really great point to make for people. So they know
Yes, yeah.
that the healing
And
crisis
here's the
doesn't
thing,
stay on the
here's the
table.
thing that you've talked about the bubble of body electronics. It is a bubble. When you do that, you can be pretty much out of your head, but somehow that bubble makes it all okay.
Mm. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Those experiences.
Well,
Especially when we can
I was,
lovingly and willingly endure it.
yes, yes. And this is not for kiddies. If you if if you really want to grow personally and get rid of a lot of your baggage, and a lot of us have got a lot of baggage. I still got some.
You'll do.
You're going to face serious challenges, and you have to learn how to roll with it. That's it.
That's right.
John puts it, and Doug puts it in. Make it okay that it's not okay.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, keep going. I'd like to hear some about some of John's, like some stories that you have with John.
Okay, stories with John. Because he was a 4.5 hour drive up north. I would occasionally get in my car and say, John, I'd check with Eleanor or Debbie, is John there? Yeah, he'll be here. I say, I'd like to come up and hold points. And sometimes it was like where John would pick up the phone. Okay, come up and hold points. So I just stand there. It's like, what do you want me to do? Well, he'd say, down in the lower level, turn right down there, and you'll find 2 men in that room, and bring them this salve to try on the guy's ankle. Okay, so I go down and I say, John sent me here, and I'd like you to try this. And then I'd sit with him, and he's reading a woman's eyes. And he says, "Oh, heart problem. John, would you take a heart point?" So there's a heart point on the shoulder. So I go, I'm on the heart point. And then it was like a break time. So I went and sat on the couch, and John came in and said, I get answers to prayer. And this is the book, and I've written them down. I'd like you to read this and this and this. I think, whoa. He says, do it. So I read it and read it and read it and read it. Now, this was decades ago. I don't remember what it was, but those answers to prayer are in those 3 books, Logic and Sequence.
Which, for those watching that haven't clued into my work yet, I have put the Logic and Sequence books. They'll never be republished because John didn't leave a will. So, and there's only 1,500 of them made. So I've put them on my website free of charge, and they're downloadable. So you can, I recommend everybody to do that, because if that goes, I just had a computer just completely crash on me, and I lost everything on that computer, like all my writings and everything that, pictures, everything. So you never know when things are going to happen like that. So I recommend everybody, if they're really truly interested in body electronics, to download and print those books, not just download them on their computers, but have those books printed. They're 999 pages for all 3 books. And I know a lot of people that have done that over the years. And I think that's a really, really good thing to do, because it's going to be really hard to find an original copy.
Jim Geither probably has some in his basement yet.
Come on, Jim. Let put them out there, and let's see them get out and about. I haven't seen Jim for years.
I saw him this spring. We went kayaking together up at Wisconsin Dells.
Oh,
Yeah.
I haven't seen or heard from him in over a decade.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so continue on. So now you sort of went over to Genesano, where on the YouTube channel that this is going to be going on, there's a whole lot of videos that I've uploaded on from the Genesano from I think 1996 mainly from the
Yes,
Genesano.
I saw some of the 96 ones. They are outstanding.
Yeah,
They are
aren't they great?
outstanding.
Yeah, yeah.
I had a lot of that. Well, I was the guy on the projector in 97 during iridology, at least part of the time. I was in an amazing healing crisis. My nose wouldn't stop running. And because it sometimes runs, I usually have quite a few Kleenex in my pocket. I'm asking people, I need more Kleenex, I need more Kleenex. Nose running. Next slide, John says. Next slide, need more Kleenex. The variety of healing crisis is really an amazing thing. So I sponsored Doug 4 times. And the last time I saved the money, I did a lot of eye readings, and I saved the money and the money from the seminar to get together enough money to go to Australia I planned for 3 weeks. I figured I had enough money to do 3 weeks. And I packed more luggage than I packed enough luggage to live there about 2 years, way too much. And then when I came back, I brought huge amounts of grain fields from Al Meyer. Was the president, probably, I don't know if he's still alive. He founded Grainfields Australia, and I talked with him. I was hoping to be able to be the guy that was the Grainfields guy in the United States. It didn't work. It's just many ways it didn't work. It was expensive. It was difficult to market. They were Al said that they were radiating it unless he sent it in a $10,000 lot, and I didn't have $10,000 to get a lot, so that thing whole crashed. And I would like to talk with you later about some possibilities of doing something like Grainfields US. I've got some ideas because of the importance of probiotics. So
there is somebody selling it online.
I see. Okay. Well, it's still very expensive.
It's very expensive. Yeah.
But so I'd like to get because that's a barrier to a lot of people. Yeah. And I would like to find some way that we can get it down. There was a woman, the name of Heather Brickhill, that talked about propagating it yourself buying a small amount in a group and then just sharing it as starter. Oh, yes. For yourself.
Yeah. It would be like a fermented product. Yeah. Okay. That sounds like an interesting conversation. Okay. So what happened? Let's go back to Genesano. So what did you see? Like when you describe and use the word miracle.
Okay.
So
Genesano.
Some examples? Can you give us some examples especially in Genesano, like what was happening there as people?
Okay, here's an example of a young lady that of a real miracle. It was small, but it was a start. She was 19 years old. She was from New Zealand, which is about 2,000 miles away from Australia. Well, down there, everybody loves their horse racing. I mean, they're nutcases. When I got there, I wanted to spend a few days adjusting to jet lag because I'm on the other side of the planet. John is not happy if you fall asleep during class. So I went into a bar. Pardon?
Have to get the stick out.
Yeah. I went into a bar and it was like parimutuel horse race here, parimutuel horse race there, everybody. I did all 3 different corners, like 4 different races were running at the same time. They all looked like Crocodile Dundee or his friends. So this woman was in a horse race in New Zealand where they have the same mindset. She was 19 years of age and she had a horse that could go like the wind. So she won a lot of races. She was fast. She told me this story. I sat with her. She was in a race and her horse was lame for that race. She wanted to race it. She had a friend. She said, "Can I ride your horse in this race? My horse is lame." She says, "Sure, take my horse." Went like the wind, won the race. The horse wouldn't stop. Now she's going full blast and something is going to go horribly wrong. Well, she went off the horse. I don't know if it went under a tree or what, or the horse just shied in a way she wasn't used to. She was a quadriplegic. When I met her, she had a little Velcro thing holding a spoon fork on her hand. Her only movements that she could do in her body was to take that little spoon fork down to her plate and put some food on it and get it to her mouth, like that. I was on wheelchair duty when I first met her. They said, we got this lady that needs help. You were going down the mountain from Genazzano. Genazzano is in the Atherton Tablelands, just inland from Cairns, Australia. So we went down the mountain and I helped a couple other people put her in the car. Forgotten her name right now, but bring her up. And so that's why I would sit and visit with her. I was waiting on tables for a while, so I just stopped by and hang with her and see how she's doing. After the 3 weeks I was there, one thing she could do is draw a breath of her own. Now, the doctors had said there's nothing they could do. She's a quadriplegic. She's a basket case. That's it. Get used to it. When I left Genazzano, she was able to grab the spoon by her hand, didn't need the Velcro, was able to lean forward to get the food, to kind of meet in between like most people eat, and she was able to draw a breath of her own volition. Now, that was 3 separate healings in 3 weeks, where the doctor said nothing could be done. That's my idea of a miracle.
You let go of something.
Now, she had to come to class, and she had minders and tenders that came with her, but you know, there was somebody always sitting next to her so she could stay alive.
Was Louis Frick at the 97 or just at the 96 instructors? Louis Frick is
Louis was not there when I was there. That's all I know.
But you met Louis later?
Yeah, I met Louis earlier.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, they were experimenting with a ozone into the ear healing device.
Oh, yes.
When I met Louis. And then he was, I was in San Diego where he lived. You know, he was working very diligently on laws for helping disabled people. And so a lot of those laws are a result of his work, because that was the main thing he was doing. Interesting fellow. Louis.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
I spent quite a bit of time with Louis. He was also at the VNC, and at least one other intensive in Pennsylvania over the years. And he was in the last VNC in 2005. So I bring up Louis because he was also a quadriplegic, and
yes.
And Doug said that he had taken the most liquid minerals of anybody that he had seen in the program over the decades. So yeah, Louis was he's passed on now, but yeah, he was a great. You'll see him in the Body Electronics 1996 videos. Okay, so let's continue on. Where else did you go in your Body Electronics?
Well, I said I was going to go there 3 weeks, and then I ran out of money. So I went to John and said, "What do I do?" And I said, "Well, I think we got room in the kitchen. Ask so and so." So I worked in the kitchen, and that gave me enough money. And then I wanted to tell Julie that I was going to stay on a week on the other side of the planet. So there was one phone up in the mountains, the conference center, and you had to wait in line at the right time. And then I had to get the right time zone, so I wasn't waking Julie at 2 a.m. So I finally got on, and I called, and I rang, and nobody answered. Nobody answered. And what's the matter? Where is she? Oh, she went to London to work for Bill Gates. So one of my little adventures, we swam in the Coral Sea. We swam in the Great Barrier Reef of Australia. Someone would usually organize an outing every weekend. When I first got there, I met Rex. Rex probably appears on some of the videos. Rex was like John's handyman. So he would a lot of times, like, he wasn't there. He would go down. So when I first got there, the first day, I sat down with Anita Zavatsky, his then wife, John's then wife, and I said, here's the money for the seminar. They said, we can't take American dollars here. You're going to have to go into the bank in town and get Australian money. So said Rex is going down tomorrow for papayas. So I went down and had interesting conversations with Rex. He is from the North Island of New Zealand. You know, the people experience is a large part of the experience, well, in all about electronics. And, you know, who is Doug going to put you with? Who is John going to put you with? Who's Elia going to put you with? And why? You know, I held points on Rose. I held points on Zach. That's part of the experience. You know more about all these people when you hold points on them. And it is a self-learning thing. It's an interaction thing. They know more about you. When I left Australia, I said, I'm leaving goodbye. And one woman said to me, oh, you've been so much of the whole experience. I thought, what did I do? I was just me. But there's an energetic interaction on all levels with everyone you're dealing with. And then you realize when you walk out the door, that's the way it is every second of every day.
It opens up, you know, something opens, and it continues to open as we continue. Okay, so where did you go from there in the point holding experience?
Well, so I stayed for the fourth week, which I thought was going to be cranial, and it wasn't. They changed the program. It was like 2 weeks of each of the things. So I believe 2 weeks of each of the 5 things. It was a 10-week program. Wow. I thought I would come in the middle and aim for another cranial, because you need so many before you move on. Rex held an unusual point on me, and I got burning, and I screamed and I screamed and I screamed, and it was kind of like it was a screaming contest going on. It was like, I don't know if anybody heard my screaming. I don't know who was screaming the loudest. There were 60 people in our group at the time. Some would come and go from different countries as we went, but it usually averaged around 60. But the energies were interesting. There was Kyle Grimshaw Jones. I'll tell it in little stories. Kyle Grimshaw Jones, I've talked to him fairly recently, was there. I believe it was his grandfather, I forget on which side, was a Maori, and he would wear a t-shirt that said Bush Doctor. We would kind of team up with different people that we would hang out with. He was hanging out with a young lady, I forget her name. He remembered her when I had the phone conversation recently, and I held points on her one day, and the energy was very unusual. I would put my finger on, and it was like the point would move, or I'd put my finger on, and the energy would go like, I can't hold that change in intense energy. And I explained to her that, you know, I'm a pretty good point holder, but something is going wrong. I can't just find the pain and push. I just can't. It's just like doing something. And she says, that's the whole story of my life. Well, John was suddenly there, standing next to us talking, and he's smiling. He tells the joke he often told. He said, what do you get when you cross an elephant with a rhinoceros? Do you know the answer to that one?
No.
Elephino.
I love that.
And it was the second or third time he told that joke to me. Just funny. Teaching with humor. So this young lady was wandering around the venue, and she came into the dining hall. And like I say, I was waiting tables for some time there, so I kind of hung around the dining hall. When the kitchen crew left the seminars early, I was there. So she walks in, and she's looking like she's got sparks in her eyes. Something is wrong in her head. And someone says, where's Kyle? Because Kyle was hanging with her. He's in the restroom. Get Kyle. So they get Kyle. So Kyle is coming in, and I'm watching John. I whenever John is near or a master, I like cue off the master. they're always in the corner of my eye, no matter what happens. If I'm sitting at the table, I move my knee over to touch him. I move my foot over to touch him. I want to be in contact with that master. I want to be nearby. When I was at your place, I was on the floor napping, and you said, "Is that your little blankie?" I was right behind you, and I could feel you reading my mind. So I created that link with John, and John is like doing subtle little hand things. It's like it's like you move over here. So I'm seeing that's my cue. Get out of the way. So in comes Kyle, and this woman probably weighed 110 pounds soaking wet. She sees Kyle coming up behind her, and she thinks she doesn't like what's going to happen. She takes her left forearm, catches him in the brisket. Kyle weighs about 220. He's up in the air, sailing about 30 feet backwards across the dining room at Genazzano, crashes in the tables like a ton of bricks, gets up. John directs another guy, ex-military, forget his name, it could come to me, to do a takedown of this woman. He moves in, and about this time Kyle comes back. They each pin down an arm. I pin down her legs, and they do the chase entity out affirmation, and she calms down.
That's all necessary.
And Kyle didn't. When I played that story back to Kyle, he said, "I didn't see you in that picture." I said, "That's because you were facing toward her head, and I was down across her legs. You weren't looking where you could see me." John put me where I could see the whole thing happening. So I was like placed as the witness and the last guy to lay on her legs.
Yeah, there's been, well, the entity releases have, it's been interesting that what I've seen in the evolution of entity releases, or, you know, over the past couple of decades at least, and even before that, like prior to my knowledge of body electronics, they've changed. It's an interesting evolution. They've seemed to have changed. The type of entity has changed, and I think people are getting to the place in consciousness where they're really able to release, you know, entities that maybe have been, you know, attached to them, or they've been attached to each other for, you know, for however long. And one of the things I just wrote recently about, might even be on today's, I haven't put today's holistic fast. Oh, it's 11/11. I haven't put today's holistic fast on yet on my site. So I'll have to do that when we're done. But I think it's entities is coming up. Anyway, I'm not sure if it's today or tomorrow, but entities is coming up on that. So I've been contemplating it as I've been doing that holistic fast. But yeah, and the entity, yeah, we have to, the bottom line for that, for me and my teachings, is we all at some point have to become our own shaman. You know, it used to be in the old days, we used to think of somebody coming in and, you know, releasing that, or, you know, some medicine person to be able to release that and be able to, you know, help us in that way. But I really feel what's really necessary now is to be your own shaman. You know, learn how to recognize when there's entity involvement, whether that's with just your own word patterns or your own thought patterns that can create sort of an entity buildup, which or an actual other energy of another being that's attached, you know, to the auric field. So anyway, that's going off track a little bit. Okay, keep going, Don. Where did you go from there?
Well, so Genazzano, so came back, did some more seminars with Doug in Pennsylvania. I apparently just missed you, and that's when I met your student Christina, and at that Pennsylvania trip with Doug, I spent a week. It was cranials again. I brought guitars. I had my parents would loan us their cars occasionally. I had a Mercury Grand Prix, big car packed with massage table and I think maybe 5, 6 guitars. So I would play
That's when
guitar
we
during
first,
breaks.
was that when we first met, Don?
That's when that was when Christina was there and you were not. So I met Christina in the parking lot, and I've studied a lot of the history of Mexico. So I asked her if she knew of Malinche, who was a famous person. I don't know if you've heard the story of Malinche, but she was given as a slave to Cortez during the conquest of Mexico.
Well, I was at that, like Christina and I exchanged cranials at that event, at that intensive in Pennsylvania. And I have pictures of, like, I remember, if that's the same one I'm thinking of, unless you went to more than one with Doug in Pennsylvania, because I have pictures of you and a couple of other people playing guitars in the Talent No Talent show at the end.
That you took?
Mm-hmm.
So you were there?
Yeah.
How, so how did I not meet you?
We had to have, I remember you there at that one. I was in the kitchen a lot. I was doing a lot of the, I was doing all the cooking.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Well, then you heard me play the wedding song by Noel Paul Stookey, and John and Doug said on the last note, he said, "On that note, we will begin the seminar."
Yeah, that's vague, but yeah.
You were there, so I just missed meeting you. So
yeah,
you were kind of a ghost.
It was quite a big seminar there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, did you didn't go? We went to see Arlo Guthrie. You were not part of that party?
No.
No. Were you there when there was a woman from India came in with Doug at the first day or so? Do you remember her? Because she went with Arlo. She went to the Arlo Guthrie thing with us.
Oh yes, I don't remember her.
Well,
yeah.
we went around the table introducing each other, and when it came to her turn, she said, "Oh, I like Don. He's so spiritual." I thought, "Oh my God!" She came in with Doug, and she's hitting on me. What is this game?
Was it
Oh,
was
is
it a
that
2-week
fun?
intensive?
Huh?
Was it a 2-week intensive?
I don't remember if it was 2 weeks. I don't.
They usually were, unless they were instructors.
All I remember is he came in with like a date, and then we did Arlo, and then she was suddenly gone. She was there very briefly. She was more like a guest than a student.
Oh, I see. Uh-huh. So where'd you go from there?
Well, body electronics. Somewhere in there, I've been in several point holding groups. In Madison, that first year, I was within what we call the Don Getches group. He came in with colon cancer and decades later died of it. But I went to the first Hamilton with Gloria Nelson. And Gloria and I became close friends, and we said, we got to get out of this Getches group. It's just too wild, too bizarre. He was always hitting on all the chicks. So we started our own group, what was the Nelson group, and that lasted for about 3-4 years. And then Howard had this grunting thing he did during point holding. And I said to John, well, when he did it in front of Doug once, I said, what about that? And he said, it's clearly reactive. It was just annoying. And like, hold the body still, hold the tongue still, and he grunts. Come on, give me a break. And he would do this. He was like Mr. And you'd say something about it. He said, oh, that's my gift. That's a reactive pattern. And I wrote to John about it. And John said, ask him to stop. And if he doesn't, leave the group. So I left that group. I've run into him. Gloria just died recently, this last spring. And I did, my presentiment said, you got to go see Gloria. So I went over and saw her. shortly before she died. So that was the Getches group, the Nelson group, and then Julie is an editor. Like I say, she worked for Bill Gates. The editor of the chief top editor of the Dictionary of American Regional English is a close friend of hers, and Julie used to get work from her. She was having some problems, health problems, so I gave her a copy of Doug's book. She read it, and we held points at the Van Schneidermesser group for a number of years. Jim Geither lived around the corner. He would come over and hold points with us quite often there. So a lot of what happened afterward was point holding groups. We invited the Van Schneidermessers down. They were down in Puerto Rico with us last year. We're heading for Puerto Rico about a week from now.
Great.
So most of it, the Ray program per se has been kind of an on their own thing. And then I've been looking for, like they say, practicing random acts of kindness, and it often includes Ray program. There was a woman, Frank and Shelley Candler in Florida, Arcadia, Florida. I did like Ray program with them around campfires when I met them. I thought this is fun. They're an interesting people. He's got some interesting, like, enlightened aspects of him. So I just started, doing all the Ray program and talking about you and talking about Doug, and he went and bought a copy of Doug's book. So I thought, go for it. I'm going to help the guy. Well, after about 4 days, we're sitting in his motorhome in this RV camp, and he bends over and he's kissing my feet. I said, please stop kissing my feet. What is going on? What is going on here? He said, my wife, when I first met you, is so suicidal. I said, sweetheart, you're going to kill me just trying to keep you from dying. And then you and Julie have been here for 3-4 days, and I've got my wife back.
Great.
I thought, that's fun.
Service, right?
So that's part of where I'm at now, is practicing random acts of kindness.
Great. So how often you came to 2 of my events?
I changed your.
Did you come to 2 of my events?
I came to one of your events
Right.
in Petroleum only, yeah, at your house, about a 5-day. It was that group of about 6 or 7 from New York that were recovering 12-step people.
Yeah. Yeah. I still keep in touch, and he keeps in touch with me. Bert, you remember Burton?
I can't place him.
He was the one. He first came to one of my events outside of Sedona prior to that, and then he gathered up those. We called them the 7.
Is he the one that read the Sufi poetry?
Probably. Yeah. Probably. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's still doing really well. So yeah.
Good.
Okay, so let's hear. I want to hear. I'm kind of. I think I said to you before we went on air that I keep looking to see if it's snowing, because I got to get down off of this mountain before, like, when it starts to snow, I'm going to be going down the mountain as quick as I can, because we're going to get a real a few days of snow, and I don't want to be locked in here. So I'm going to go down the mountain to my daughter's for the weekend. So can you wrap it up with just have a story that comes to you about John, and anything else you want to say? And then I think when you get back from Puerto Rico, we can do part 2. You can maybe jot down a few of your your experiences that you've had, particularly with John, and then we can have a part 2. So can you does anything come to you with?
Okay, here's a little story of John. I knew he was a master, but very early on, I'd seen enough miracles, and I know the source of them. It's like Yogananda says, miracles cluster thickly around such a one. So I thought, and he said I believe he said he was going to be leaving, or there was, he did say he might not be around this neighborhood for long. So I ordinarily carry 3x5 cards in this pocket, and I wrote down 3 questions on a 3x5 card. I don't know if I can recall all of them. It was like, how do we stay in close communications while you're gone? and there were two others. Now I can't remember what they were. But I never pulled that card out. I never said any of those three subjects, but he clearly answered all three questions before I left there.
Nice. That's
So
what
it's
happens when we, that's what I think,
Hmm?
like everybody's a master if they're opened through the pineal, if they've gone through the emotional body. I mean, that's the challenge, is to get all the way through the emotional body and get the pineal opened. You know, most people get stopped at the pituitary. You know, other people get stopped, you know, further down. But getting through that emotional body, I mean, that is crucial to mastery of any kind. You know, but when the pineal opens, of course, then you know, then we open to the greater resonance, and those things just you know, become interactive. So it's something that is available to all people. Everybody who has the tenacity to get through the emotional body, particularly through their own self-created pain, they will find themselves in you know, opening the pineal. And when that pineal opens, then, you know, that what we call in body electronics, the enthusiasm opens, which is really the internal connection to all that is. So yeah, keep going.
Me?
Yeah. So how do you want to wrap it up? Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I'll say this to anyone listening. This is a marvelous path, and Elia is a marvelous teacher and leader. And when she makes a suggestion, I suggest that you follow it.
Thank you, Don. We didn't premeditate that either.
No, no, but you do owe me $50 for it.
You know, I you know, I have a detox bath every morning, and in the bath this morning, it came to me that when it was like this, you know, myriad of memory I had around when teachers that I sought, when it, I'll tell it this story in another time, but it was my Ojibwe teacher. He, you know, when he would do something or suggest something, I never questioned it. I mean, I would never question it, because I could see that he could see further than I could see. So there was that part of me that would just never question it. I'll just give you like really short. You know, when he said something to do something, I did it to the letter. You know, and the same with John. Like when, you know, as you know, well, prior to John passing, he would come to me in dreams each night. After his passing in 2001, it was in waking time that I could access. I could, you know, I could hear him. I could, you know, ask a question and get it answered. You know, we had that quite interactive relationship for quite some time, until I was, I had taken both, you know, 2003 and 2004 instructors courses, and had sort of gotten to the place where I could be independent with my teaching. And then, you know, he went off to do other things, but he, you know, he assisted me a lot in the etheric realms. And yeah, so yeah, that's a great point you bring up, to really, you know, if you seek teaching, then and you know, this teaching that we're speaking of is body electronics, so that body electronics has a very specific sequence of how we keep going higher on the scale of emotion, and you know, through the transmutation process. And you know, it's very in depth, like you said in the very beginning, and it really is never ending, as far as I can tell. And yeah, so thank you. You know, as a body electronics veteran, Don, I really thank you for everything that you've done all these years, and all the times that you spent on the table, because every person that does a transmutation, and on and off the table, I should say, you know, right to the present moment. So everything that we do that's connected in with body electronics, we're making it easier for everybody else that is yet to come. So all the body electronics veterans of the past have made it easier for everyone in the future. So I really wanted to say thank you to you for that. So
Thank you.
so with that, you folks have a wonderful time in Puerto Rico, and please be in touch when you're back, and we'll do part 2.
Will do.
Okay.
Thanks again.
All the best. See you later,
In
Don.
Spanish,
Okay,
in
see you.
Spanish, they say, go with God. Vaya con Dios.
Thank you. See you, Julie.
Yeah, bye-bye.
So long, Don. Mwah. All the best.